By now, you've probably heard the news. Michigan Governor Rick Snyder is now free to rob Detroit workers of their hard-earned pensions. On Tuesday morning, Judge Steven Rhodes ruled that because federal law trumps state law, Michigan's constitutional protections for public employee pensions don't apply in federal court. It's pretty much official now. Detroit is going bankrupt. The death of a great American city is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, news stories of the week. But the mainstream media has yet to tell the real story behind the Motor City's decline. I used to live there. I know this city. Bankruptcy law is a complicated topic, so it'd be one thing if major networks avoided all the nitty-gritty details of the past few months' legal battles. But they haven't. In fact, that's all the mainstream media has focused on. They've made it seem like Detroit's troubles magically fell out of the sky back in July when the city's emergency manager, Kevin Orr, first filed bankruptcy papers. And while those legal battles are interesting in their own right, they're really only part of a much larger story, the destruction of Detroit by America's bankster billionaire class. The media isn't telling that story, and it's a story that needs to be told and to be heard. At one point in time, Detroit was ground zero for the American dream. The Motor City really was the Motor City. It was the fifth biggest metropolitan area in the country, and its economy was booming as a result of the success of the big three automakers, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. Car industry's unionized workforce took home good middle-class salaries, in turn bolstering the city's tax revenues. But over the past 30-plus years, Detroit has been hit hard by the three-headed monster of the new American fire economy: free trade, union busting, and bankster-run Ponzi schemes. From the Washington administration to the Reagan Revolution of the 1980s, our trade system around the world was based on a system of protectionist tariffs that encouraged doing business in America and discouraged moving American jobs overseas. But toward the end of the 20th century, both Republican and Democratic lawmakers began to embrace a new form of free market extremism, what they called free trade. Free trade opened up the economy to foreign competition and outsourced jobs once done by American workers to workers overseas. Detroit was hit especially hard as foreign car companies like Toyota took advantage of lax trade policies to sell their products to American consumers. This decimated Detroit's industrial core. The Motor City's manufacturing workforce stood at 200,000 in 1950. Today, it's 20,000. But any possibility that those foreign companies would help provide new jobs to Detroit's now unemployed auto workers was stopped dead in its tracks by right to work for less states in the South using their anti-worker laws to attract foreign manufacturers like Volkswagen and Toyota. And with the jobs gone and poverty rampant, Detroit, like so many other deindustrializing cities across America, then became the target for banksters looking to make a quick buck with rip-off mortgage schemes. As a result, the financial crisis hit the Motor City especially hard. But to make matters worse, after evicting thousands of Detroiters from their homes, the big banks didn't bother going through the normal foreclosure process. Instead, they left the houses abandoned in an attempt to avoid paying taxes on them. Their scheme worked. Detroit's army of abandoned houses costs the city millions every year in unpaid taxes. The Motor City, once ground zero for the American dream, is now ground zero for the worst policies of the post-Reagan economy. Its industrial heart has been shredded in the name of free trade. Its workforce has been decimated by glorified union-busting schemes. And in the final insult, to add that final insult to injury, its impoverished population has been ripped off by predator banksters. Of course, you can't expect the media to focus on those things, right? I mean, with so much money to be made through a bankruptcy, it's far easier to focus on the short term and blame the retirees. Those former workers were the only ones who kept their part of the bargain by trading lower pay and longer working hours for a pension that's now being stolen from them by Michigan's Republican governor. If we really want to save the rest of our country from devastation, we need to take a good hard look at the lessons of Detroit. Because if we continue on the path we've been on for the past 30 years, Detroit's decline won't be just a sad story. It'll be America's story.